Hot Topics, and today we're asking the question, is the office dead?
Yes.
And we say yes. We need to get to our top tips on leading a remote team that you've never met, because that's what happens and probably never will. No cubicles, no problem.
And that's okay. I love remote work. I thought that was the best thing that came out of COVID.
So today we are welcoming you to episode 3 of our 2025 Entrepreneur Survival Guide. I'm Faye.
And I'm Stacy. I'm sorry, I zoomed out for a second. I don't know why, but that's okay. Still wearing my pajama pants. That's okay.
Today's episode, again, is all about remote work 2.0, to be exact, because apparently offices are so 2019.
They are. And why face rush hour or that suspicious office refrigerator? You can log in from your couch with your cat sleeping on your lap.
Yeah, that's
or my
you.
laptop, because that's me.
That's
Yesterday,
you.
I was literally working. My cat walked across my keyboard and then deleted something. I was not happy, but that's okay.
Because remote work is really, truly the new normal now, right? So we want to break down these 10 steps to let you effectively manage and motivate your minions wherever they may be across the globe, because that is the reality of what you have to work with today.
And trust me, if you're not ready for remote leadership, your best hires will vanish faster than leftover pizza in your shared kitchen.
Because you might never see your employees in person ever, right? And you can still build a really great team. It's just about understanding how to really manage it.
So let's kick things off with the obvious. Why do you think remote work is here to stay?
Well, I think in all honesty, the tech industry really basically said, we can have a boatload of office rent and impress everyone with flexible policies and do all of that, or we can let them work from home and save a ton of money and not have to pay all the extra pieces. So I think everyone, whether it's tech, the banks, companies, realize that they can get just as much done from their people when they're at home, and their people are happier.
And they're more productive, right? They're more productive at home. And there's less time, right? They're not commuting. They're commuting maybe from their bedroom to their office, but, maybe circumventing past the coffee maker.
Yeah. So there are a few big reasons remote is sticking around. And I guess we'll go through a few of them so you really understand why it's here to stay. Number one is there's a global talent pool, right? You are no longer restricted by geography. So you could hire somebody in Portugal or hire somebody in Japan. We just talked to somebody in India who is helping us with our e-com store and coding, because it works well. He's talented
and brilliant.
And he doesn't have to be in our office.
I love him.
There's cost savings, right? You're not sinking money into office space, as I said, and snack bars and ping pong tables and Google offices, right? You can invest in actual business growth. I know. So, you can actually spend the money on where you need to spend it. I guess it's flexible, right? Employees love the freedom to choose their workplaces. And in 2025, nobody has time to be micromanaged. The new generation that's coming into roles are not interested in that. They are interested in lifestyle and enjoying their life and not worrying about whether they have to go to an office every day. The truth is, you don't have to. They have been raised to work remotely. Whereas, a former generation weren't. And so they are not as productive, but this new generation can work anywhere, right? And it's really about employee preference. All the studies that they've done have shown that people aren't too keen on returning to a cubicle, right? Isn't that a shocker? It's like insane, right? And then there's the tech infrastructure. Software tools are everywhere. They're robust. You don't need to go into the office to use Office. You don't need them to use your Wi-Fi, right? You can use every tool you want. You can integrate, you can talk to everyone on video remotely, not a problem anymore.
Assuming that your Wi-Fi doesn't throw a tantrum like we've had before, but that's okay. Sometimes it just shuts down in the middle of a meeting. We've had that happen before. Yeah. But speaking of that younger generation coming up, basically they're kind of allergic to the 9 to 5, right? Yeah. Because it's not how they've been brought up. It's not what they see. It's not how they're productive, and it's not how you're going to get the most out of them.
Right. And we say that with love, of course, right?
Of course.
But remote work does have its drawbacks. You have to remember there is confusion over like time zones and the occasional embarrassing thing on video or on Zoom, right? But overall, it's really not going anywhere no matter what you say. So if you're a boomer and you think that they're all coming back to the office, they're not.
Remember back in the day when you wanted to become an entrepreneur, having that office was that was your goal. It's like,
Right.
I want to be in an office. And now it's the exact opposite. And if you want to stay competitive as an entrepreneur, basically you need to ditch the office and figure out that whole remote thing fast.
That's why those office spaces that like WeWork and all those kind of, and there's another story there, but they are kind of going by the wayside because you don't need them and nobody cares about your background anymore. Remember, people used to be wanting offices so their background looked good. Now we see people's beds, we see their sheets. We don't care. Like, it doesn't matter if they're smart. Can they look a bit better?
But make your bed.
Yeah.
At least make your bed.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
So let's talk about how you master remote teams, right? Let's cut to that chase because we're going to give you some tips that will help you really lead a remote team effectively. They'll forget they've ever actually met you in real life. I mean, they don't know. They might have met you once on an interview, or they might never have met you, or they might have met you and just don't remember you. But here we go.
And we actually faced that a couple of weeks ago when we were at a conference.
Yeah.
We had spoke to the organizers of the conference for weeks and weeks and weeks online.
Yes.
And then we finally met them in person. And they looked completely different in person, and they interacted very differently in person, which was kind of interesting. But we knew who they were based on how we'd met them online. And it was great to know that we could have all of that communication and all of those conversations without actually meeting somebody in person. So step one, drum roll.
Over communicate expectations, right? It might seem silly to literally restate deadlines or project goals, but in remote land, clarity is king because they're not in front of you.
Cannot emphasize enough to use very clear language. It's so important to do those check-ins. I've worked with a lot of people remotely, and the same thing, like not necessarily daily, but have those check-ins so that you can't just say, well, I need that done ASAP, or I need that done now. And then all of a sudden you don't talk to them for a month. Oh, did you mean now? It doesn't work like that, right? So make sure that you know what those expectations are and that you're very clear on how that works with everybody.
And really important is to establish clear working hours because time zones are fun. And you accidentally schedule a mandatory meeting at 3 a.m. in someone else's city. This happens all the time. So you have to be conscious of all the different time zones and where your people are coming from.
And have a shared calendar. That's a big one so that people know what's going on and they know that it's in their own time zone, which is really crucial as well. But you have to check it, right? You can't create a calendar and then not look at it. So you do have to respect everybody's time, or you're going to turn, your best team member into an ex-employee, which would not be good.
Make sure you leverage project management software. So whether it's Trello or Asana, ClickUp, Upbase, even Google Workplace, whatever it is, it'll give you the opportunity to assign tasks, set deadlines, track progress, and make changes so that you don't have to email each other a document. You actually can change things in real time.
You like my colors?
No. But I know you like to do it.
Colors give me joy. But it can help, right, depending on your team. And that's where you have to have that conversation with your team to understand, if colors do work, what that looks like, and what colors mean what, if you're going to go down that road. But labeling, so even if you don't like color, labeling things and having things organized in this project management software is huge so that everybody knows what everything is and what's more important than others so that you can really focus on prioritization.
I think it's important that you set up some type of virtual, for lack of a better word, water coolers, because everyone needs their downtime to really bond with their team, right? So you can create Slack or team channels where actually people can just joke or share memes or whatever they want to do. But always remember, if you are that person, that will stay there forever. So be careful what you share.
But it is important because I think that's the part that people forget. when they're working remote is that they forget the idle chit chat, or again, that water cooler conversation about, hey, how was your weekend? Or what are you guys doing tonight? Or how's the family? Because we get so focused on our conversations online being so work related that we forget about that kind of downtime. So work that in. If you are working with the team online, work that kind of communication in so that they don't just feel like a cog in a wheel, right? That they actually feel like a human being.
And just schedule regular video check-ins, right? Sometimes it feels awkward, right? But face-to-face on screen really makes a massive difference. When somebody says they want to call me, and I always go like on my phone, like you want to talk to me without a virtual face, I'm not really comfortable. Or when you jump on a virtual meeting and somebody puts a picture of their cat on there instead of their actual face, it's not going to fly, right? So schedule face to face, which means screen to screen, to make sure that everyone knows that you actually exist.
So if you have your screen on and you hold up your cat,
no,
is that okay?
Not the ones that put it in front of their face. There was someone that I was on a meeting with, and they said they had a picture of a cat, and they said they didn't have a webcam. Who doesn't have a webcam? I'm sorry. Everyone has a webcam. It's integrated. You have your phone. It's there. Everyone has a webcam. Please don't do that.
I actually remember one time calling her on the phone, like
on the phone.
Actual phone. And I remember her picking up the phone going, why are you phoning? Like, why are you using your phone? Is there a problem?
Wrong?
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's not the only one that I allow to do that is my kid, but that's because he's driving.
That's different. Okay.
So focus on real outcomes and not just hours, right? Remote work is about flexibility. So if they meet the deadlines and deliver the quality, who cares when they did it? If they take a nap in the mid-afternoon, it's fine. You don't care. If the deadline is 12 midnight, as long as it's there on 12 midnight, what do you care if they went for a walk in the middle of the day?
It doesn't matter, right? Unless they're missing a mandatory call,
right,
or ghosting a client, let them work when they're most productive. And we've had conversations recently about, morning people versus afternoon people versus evening people, right? And it used to bug me when my kid wouldn't get something done and it was like 10 o'clock and it was due at midnight, but that's when he was most productive. So I had to honor that. I'm most productive in the morning. So if you're asking me a question, 5, 6 o'clock at night, probably not going to be talking about it.
Yeah. So, and people are at home and they're looking for the same type of encouragement they get at work, right? So encourage that professional development. Look for online courses that they can take, or set up workshops for them that will make them continually to grow. Because you used to, when you were in office, you would bring in consultants to have meetings or training. Do the same thing. It's just going to be online.
And they'll also see where your company's going. And I think that's really important for them to understand when you're working in a team environment, is for them to be part of that. So they know what's going to be happening with your company. They know where they might be fitting in to the future of your company. So that can really be seen as like a retention strategy to keep your employees if they know what's going on, so that they're not, just sitting there kind of wondering because they're remote and they don't know. So if you do kind of bring them into those conversations, they can really feel still part of that company.
And just piggybacking onto that, your culture has to be that you are remote friendly, right? It isn't about going to a breakout room, right? It's about understanding that you are remote. It's open communication. There's trust there. You want to make sure that you're conveying that you're very happy to have them work remotely, because in particular with the generations that are coming up, they are looking for that. When they're looking to get a new job or intern somewhere, they're like, how many days do I have to come to the office?
Yeah.
And how many days do I do remote work?
And you know what? You can schedule some fun virtual stuff, right? Virtual happy hours. You can do some online quizzes. You can do other events like get-togethers, that kind of stuff. Anything that reminds them that they're human, that they're part of an organization, they're part of that company, they're part of your team, and they're not just a profile picture and name.
And hand in hand with remote, you also have to be careful because you do have to monitor productivity in certain cases, right? Within reason, right? So there are softwares that you can use like Hubstaff or Time Doctor, and or you're automatically online on Slack so they can see you, right? Nobody wants that digital big brother. However, if, for example, your team works in customer service, so they have to be available for customer calls, you need to make sure they're available for customer calls.
Exactly. And you know what? You also need to focus on results. You don't need to micromanage. You don't need to sort of look at those minutes and be like, well, you only tracked so many minutes during this day, and you start talking to them about all of this stuff because it's easy to track.
Yeah.
Be careful with that, because as soon as you start tracking every single keystroke, you're going to start building up resentment because maybe they're doing something that they're not on that program, but did they get the job done? Yeah. Right? So make sure that you're focused on productivity and the results, not necessarily every single second that they're on their computer.
Right. I worked with a company that expected you to be on Slack all day and answer anything that came up. There is a big challenge with multitasking. You are not as productive and not as effective. So be careful to curtail any of that non-essential pieces, just people going and saying, hey, what's going on? If it is not important, then put it on the slow train, because you want people to focus on what they want to do. And I guess my biggest concern with remote is really addressing mental health issues, right? Remote working can be highly isolating. So you want to make sure that you encourage breaks, that you offer any resources they need. Once in a while, check in and go, hey, how's it going? Right? Because it is hard once in a while to kind of go, you know what? I'd like to talk to a real human other than just doing my computer work.
And you know what's worse than a burnt out remote worker is a laptop with a dead battery. And if you push and push and push and they continue to feel isolated and they just work, they're going to start to feel very, very burnt out, and you don't want that for your team.
So we talked about some of the things that you should really think about, the steps, but we also would like to give you some tools that might help you with creating that whole remote team. Okay,
so just saying, you can't do it all with sticky notes. I've tried. I've even tried digital sticky notes and it doesn't work, right? So it's a little bit chaotic. So when you're thinking about working with your team and thinking about the functionality of your team, think about that communication and collaboration piece. So again, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, any of those ones are really great for real-time chats, right? You can go, hey, what's going on? You can create different channels for different projects or different conversations that are happening. And that will really help people stay connected. Even at the water cooler, you can actually create a channel just for water cooler conversations so that they don't feel so disconnected. And again, we talked Google Meet or Zoom for video calls. So that's really important. Remember to occasionally use the mute button though, because we don't want to hear your dog barking or your cat meowing like mine does all the time, or other things that are going on to your neighborhood. Construction's a big one that I hear, a lot of banging in the background. So just press that mute button every once in a while, but that can be really good because even if you can't meet in person, at least you can see a human being.
But don't get too caught up in worrying about if something is in the background, because there's nothing worse than seeing somebody on a Google Meet going like this.
Yeah.
And telling somebody back there to be quiet. They're not realizing that we can actually see them doing it. Just say, hey, sorry, my dog's barking. Let me mute. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Be honest.
Absolutely. So think about your project management systems, right? Asana, we use Upbase, anything that works for you in regards to organization so that you can log in together, you can see deadlines, you can see workflows, you can see what other people are doing as well, so that you can ensure that your tasks are supporting the project overall and not just your individual things that you're working on. Notion is great if you want that all-in-one workspace. So that's amazing because it has documents, project boards, all of that stuff that you can work on. File sharing and document collaboration, huge when it comes to working remote with your team. Google Workspace is our favorite. I can't tell you the amount of times that she just creates a document or I'll create a sheet and we'll share it. And then we can both make changes. We can both make edits on the same document in real time, which is great. A lot of people do use Dropbox and OneDrive. I just want to Probably because those are not ones that we use, but they do work. A lot of people do like those particular tools as well. And think about, again, when you're working with teams, that team building, that engagement piece, right? I know Slack has an integration for like Donut, and that's just for random coffee meetups, like that water cooler talk. That can be really encouraging for your team members to know that you're on top of the fact that they are going to be having conversations that are not work related, that they just want to communicate and they just want to stay connected is huge. Kahoot is a big one. I love Kahoot. That's an online quiz platform. So think about it. Take that break, take that lunchtime or whatever the case may be and make it fun so that your team, again, feels part of the team and not just a cog in the wheel and they just keep going. And the only time that you ever get together is for work related stuff, right? And again, we've talked before about those time tracking. So think about, again, like we said, hub staff, rescue time. If you do need to track those hours, absolutely. But again, be cautious because no one wants to feel like they're being tracked 24/7.
Yeah, if you implement any of these tools, then you won't have anyone saying, I didn't see this, I forgot this was due, because you will have everything and the deadlines easily accessible for everyone. That's really key. If you don't clearly define it, it's not their fault if they didn't get it done.
Yeah. And if you see that your team is actually using these tools, reward them. How many cat gifts have you received?
Too many.
But that's okay. But they want to see something fun, right? They want to see that that they're being recognized for using these tools, and they want to know that you're actually paying attention instead of them just putting it into the abyss. Positive reinforcement works.
Yeah, so that's really our deep dive into remote work, right? We covered why remote work is more than just literally a passing phase. It's here to stay. We talked about the strategies to manage your remote team and some of the tools that we believe will keep everyone in sync. There's many others for you to look at, but it's a great place to start.
And next time, we're going to round out our 4-episode series with brand building in 2025. So how to create an empire humans and AI actually care about. Because you know what good is a remote team if no one knows or cares about your brand?
Yeah. So get your remote strategy locked in now, right? Because I want you to come back and hear us when we start talking about unstoppable brands. If you understand that it's here to stay, we can go to the next step.
So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're Faye and Stacey, reminding you that the best meeting is often the one that could have been an email.